So hopefully that's given you a bit of a taste of where we're at in terms of the geological understanding. Like I said earlier, it's early days, we've got a lot to go. So what I want to talk about now is basically some of the things that the South Australian Government and the Geological Survey have got in the pipeline, some of the things that we've collected and where we're going with this in terms of pre-competitive data collection and then of course survey value add to that data. There's not a lot of information out there, but as you've seen, a little bit of data can lead to interesting conclusions. So we're already getting an idea of the geodynamic setting and where things are going. We know there's big challenges out here. No one's shying away from that, but there is a big opportunity as well. There's an opportunity for explorers to be first movers, but also to be first movers in an area that has a significant amount of support from government, including major spend on pre-competitive data and a large commitment in terms of the survey work. This, the Coompana project and what we're talking about here really actually forms one part of a broader program that the survey is conducting, basically looking at the entire western margin of the Gawler Craton. We know from other areas, particularly the opposite margin of this, that these cratonic margin areas are particularly prospective. So we have got a big commitment in the survey to basically de-risk this area and to open it up for exploration and for more exploration. So this includes, the underexplored Western Gawler, places like the Fowler, the Mulgathing complex, Western Mulgathing, and out into the Nawa, the Coompana, but also up into the Musgraves. We're still working very hard, collecting data and doing geological analysis of stuff in the Musgraves to understand what's going on there and the mineralisation potential that exists there, that we know exists there. This is a big task. It's bigger than something that the survey can do alone. So it opens up the opportunity for a major collaborative program. So under the banner of the Uncover initiative, which is kind of where we're going with this, we've pulled together a team of people, team of organisations to actually do things. And this includes Geoscience Australia, CSIRO, the West Australian Geological Survey, funding through the Ozscope initiative, university support and collaboration, things like the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia, but also ANU through seismic and passive seismic. And then industry support, maybe that's you, who knows. So we want to open up a frontier basically. The survey and the government is committed to de-risking this area for exploration. So that includes this project this is a tier 1 project within the Geological Survey. We have a lot of people, we have a good team of people working on it. We also have a good team of people in our collaborators working. It also means a large pre-competitive data investment, collection investment. And in terms of committed or expended dollars to date, we're talking around about $6.5 million of new data collected in this region. $1.5 million on the seismic line, over $1 million on the mag and radiometric data. AusLAMP, as Stefan just talked about, and the amazing information that's coming out of that, talking about half $500,000 million there. Regional biogeochemistry, passive seismic and AMT, which I'll talk about in a bit. And then upcoming programs, $1 million regional gravity. I'll show you where we're going to put that in a minute. And also then, something that we're very, very proud of and we're very happy to be doing is at least $2.25 million on a regional drilling program to actually put some holes in the ground to get samples to see what these rocks actually are. So to give you a bit of a quick run through on what we've got and what we're getting. The magnetics. New magnetic data, the largest single survey done so far in South Australia. Over, 250,000 line kilometres, flowing predominantly at 400 metre line spacing with an infill down here at 200 metres. This data is available right now. Get on the SARAG, you can grab it tonight. The reconnaissance biogeochemical study. This was done out along the railway line from Tarcoola to the border and then down across some of these tracks on these magnetic anomalies. This really was a reconnaissance thing. This was to identify the species that are out there and to see how well this was actually going to work. And interestingly, we did actually get some anomalies. Things like, I don't know what this means, but there's a sulfur anomaly in bladderbush across the margins of some of these intrusions. Whatever that means. It gives us a baseline in terms of biogeochemistry, and it actually then gives us the opportunity for infill information on that, and also to link that with other work that we're doing, including potentially things like soil geochemistry. We've got a big program in terms of reanalyzing existing samples. We've basically gone back to all the existing wells that we have out there. We've resampled the basement. We're getting geochronology done on that, isotopic work. I've shown some of this today, geochemistry. Unfortunately, a lot of it's from cuttings. This makes things difficult in terms of avoiding contamination in your geochemistry and your isotopic data, but it's the best we can do with what we've got. We'll do that. And then when we get some new data, some new drill holes, we'll be able to add to that. We had a University of Adelaide honours student who's done a project looking at the petrogenesis of those basalts to give us a handle on what they are and how old they are. So that's available either through the university or you can talk to me. And then looking also at, in the broader project, the Western Margins project, looking at potential correlatives of this area. So things like the St. Peter Suite and a reanalysis and a reappraisal of what that is, new geochronology, new geochemistry, new isotopic data, but also thermochronology. In fact, we've collected data from some of the drill holes out here as well as across the Gawler to get a profile of thermochronological data to give us an idea of exhumation levels and crustal levels at time. So big things coming up soon, obviously, is the release of the data and the results for the Coompana section of the EG1 seismic line. We released the initial phase of this, which was the Western Gawler, so from sort of here back to Tarcoola, in December last year. That was really well received, and that data and the report are all available from SARIC. This section here, and this is a very, very, very preliminary interpretation here that I've just grabbed. This is all going to be released at the AESC conference, the Australian Earth Science Convention conference, here in Adelaide in June, at its own dedicated session where we'll have myself presenting these results. Tom will be presenting the Gawler section. Catherine Spaggieri from the West Australian Survey will be presenting on the Madura province, the continuation of this, and some linking that into the AFO, and a bunch of other talks as well. The data from this will be released about 2 weeks prior to the conference, and that will be downloadable from our website, as well as Geoscience Australia. New gravity. We're spending a lot of money to get new gravity, and this data is going to be fantastic. A lot of the work that Clive is doing, looking at the magnetisation of these intrusive bodies, it's hard to pin down a lithology when you don't have any other controls and you don't have a control on the density. So we are getting a significant new data set. Basically, it looks like a big black box because it's actually so closely spaced. The existing data is the standard regional, I think it's about 7 kilometres, and down in that southwestern corner it's even further, it's more like 10 or 11 kilometres spacing. This will all be infilled to 2 kilometres on the margins. There's a 1 kilometre spaced infill, and then 500 metres over a couple of these anomalies. So we're going to have really good constraints in terms of the gravity and be able to do good density models of some of these intrusions to figure out what they are, have a bit more of an idea, and also in terms of working out how deep they are and things like that. A new radiometric data set. So this was collected with the airborne magnetics. This data fills a big gap. This is one of the last gaps that we have in the state. As you can see, this is the existing data and there's a big gap. This will be useful. This will be very useful in terms of geomorphology and looking for things like cave systems and whatnot, which is actually a really important thing when you're planning drilling programs out in this area where you have in-cast terrain where you need to avoid caves. This data is currently in QAQC and should be available shortly. Associated with that as well is a new 400 metre and 200 metre down in here radar altimeter DEM. So again, This gives you landform information. The other thing that's particularly useful out here in the Nullarbor is neotectonics. There's the DEM information out here is very, very good at giving you the locations of structures. In fact, you can see some of these actually through here. And these structures are actually reactivations of basement structures. We know that, we can trace these in the magnetics, and so it gives us a handle on the basement structure and how active these structures have been right through to recent times. And obviously, up further in here, this sort of data set as well as the radiometrics would be very useful for things like, for superficial exploration, things like mineral sands, heavy mineral sands. I won't go into this. Clive's given us a very good presentation on the work that he's doing modelling these magnetic anomalies. His work will continue and is going to be presented at a number of conferences, the EESC as well as SEG and a couple of others. And that's all going to come out when that data is finished. That will all be will come out and will be widely available, freely available from the website. Passive seismic and AMT. We've just recently been out to the Nullarbor to do basically a bit of a test case. So this is in collaboration with Geoscience Australia, doing small-scale short deployments of passive seismic instruments. So this is a passive seismic instrument here, and also AMT, which is audio frequency magnetic tellurics. We've done this over a number of known existing wells where we have constraints on the depth of cover. Well, some constraints on the depth of cover. So we've collected this data. This data is being processed. Hopefully this will work. If this works, we will then roll this out in terms of doing more surveying prior to our drilling. And this is going to hopefully give us much better constraints on the thickness of cover, particularly in the areas where we're going to be drilling. That data should be coming to us in later this year, September, I believe. Stefan has just given us a talk on AusLAMP. Again, this is a fantastic data set. Nearly the entire state is going to be covered by this wide-spaced, sort of 50-kilometre space broadband data, which is actually, it's going to change the way we look at the state. It's going to change the way we understand the formation and the geology of the state, the architecture of the state, but also, you know, where these fertile regions are for mineralisation and exploration. So we're waiting the results for the rest of the AusLAMP with bated breath. Stefan's working on that. We've also got the EG1 line, which he just spoke about, as well as this Fowler traverse down here, which shows up, as he showed in some of his models, some of these major structures very well as being, you know, conductive pathways and large lithospheric scale structures in this region. We're also trying to characterise the cover better. So not only are we doing geophysics in terms of looking at depth of cover and thickness of the cover, but actually characterising the nature of that cover. So unfortunately, a lot of the holes out here haven't been particularly well logged. So we're basically doing this in collaboration with people from the ASP and also our Energy Resources group. Basically, we're going to re-log a lot of these wells. We've had the seismic line reprocessed for a 2-second data set, so we actually have good seismic control there on the basins. And we're also planning on resampling. In fact, we've actually already resampled these. They're all sitting on my desk at work now. Resample all the different units from each. These are the holes that we've done so far from each of these units, and we're going to get full suite lithogeochemistry on that. We'll generate a geochemical baseline of the basin, as well as zircon provenance, to understand where those things have come from. Are they coming from, you know, potentially fertile basement sources for things like sedimentary copper deposits? This is work that will be progressing within the next year or so. And then the piece de resistance, I guess, is the regional drilling. We can do all the geophysics we want, but until we go out there and actually get some samples of these rocks, we're not going to be able to really put constraints on it. We're not going to know what sort of systems we're talking about here in terms of the geodynamic systems, but then what sort of mineral systems exist in the area. So we currently have planned a $2.25 million there's the potential that that dollar will increase. Geoscience Australia have intimated that they are potentially going to be collaborating on that with us and also increasing that funding to do a regional drilling program in this region. So this is going to be a regional stratigraphic program. We'll be targeting different geophysical domains and trying to get basically an idea of all the trying to characterise each of these different geophysical domains so that we get a handle on what each of these different rock systems are. At the moment, it's probably going to be probably rotary mud through the cover, and then we'll be doing at least 200 metre diamond tails into basement. So hopefully from this sort of money, we'll be looking at somewhere around 8 to 10 holes potentially, seeing how things go. We're currently planning this now. We're planning to be drilling later or about this time next year is the plan. So I guess in terms of the timing on the release of a lot of this data and this ERA process, it actually works very well for industry. We'll be basically releasing the gravity. We'll be collecting the gravity later this year because we'll be using the gravity in our modelling, in planning of our drilling. We've already got the magnetics. We'll be doing the passive seismic technique to do depth of cover estimates by the time we drill. So by this time next year, we'll have a large data set, a large geophysical data set, and we will be on the ground drilling. So by the time any exploration company actually begins planning a work program and getting out there on the ground, we'll be out there doing work and collecting data. So this actually provides a really good opportunity for industry to collaborate with us in an area where not much is known, but a lot is happening. So hopefully that gets you a little bit excited about what's coming, what the possibilities are, and where you might go with that. So that's the end of our talks. I guess I'm going to open up. If you have any questions, you can ask people now, or there's obviously the core laid out down there. We can go and have a look and have a chat around the core. And anyone who's interested, I think Steve is happy to run people around on a bit of a tour. So, and we also have some afternoon tea and there's some coffee and things around the corner there. So thank you very much for coming. I hope this has given you a bit of an idea of where we're at and where we're going, and I hope you get interested and put in an application for some of these ERAs. Thanks.